Thank you very much, Sarah, and all the members are part of this organization. That it's really a grace to be able to share our faith, and I think that all of you agree that it's not easy to do it in a pub. But I will try my best. Okay? Now, number one, I would like to present myself shortly. I only have half an hour, but I would like to do something that is more familiar than the normal talks that perhaps you're used to. I'm not going to be doing a theological treatise with you. What I'm going to be doing is talking about my experience of faith, how this has led me to the Yukon, where I am now the Bishop of Whitehorse, and what does this meeting that we are having has to do with the missions in the north. Okay? You already figured that out, I think. You're very smart to know where I'm going and where am I coming to. Eh? So, let me see now. There is a space on there. So, as you heard, my name is Hector Vila. I come from Peru. I'm the last one of 10 children. Okay? And I have to speak about my life because to speak about God as an abstract doesn't make any sense. Many times we think that faith is a matter of thinking of theories, thinking of something that we will find at the end of our lives. Somehow, it seems like when you die, you will find this nice, white-bearded man who will say to you, okay, what did you do? I didn't do that bad, okay, come into heaven. Or sometimes we think that God will, at the end of times, when we pass away, will ask us, okay, what did you do? Right? What is it that you did during the time that you were on earth? Right? But I give you an example. What would you say to a father, to your father? Right? Let's say that you're born, and your father takes off on your mother, and your mother never sees him again, and you never see him again for 30 years. At the end of these 30 years, he comes back and he tells you, I'm your father. What would you say? Where have you been? What else? Come on. We can dialogue here. We are not in the church, so. What would you say? Come on. I want to just hear a couple of things. I want to ask everyone here. Eh?
Why are you back?
Why are you back? Yeah, that's a good one. Yes. Okay, what else?
How do I know you're really my father?
How do I know? Okay, ask your mom. Okay. I'm sure that you can easily say, who knows you? Like, who cares? You will feel so hurt that when you needed him, he was not there, that you will not even look at him. Or you will just simply say, okay, thank you, nice meeting you, goodbye, and just walk away. Now, the same thing with faith. If God was someone waiting for you to die and they meet you up there, what kind of a father is he? That he just waits until you die and then he doesn't do anything? So we say that faith is a meeting, an encounter with a living God that acts concretely in your life. This is faith. And many times we don't think of this. You know why? Because sometimes we are wondering, or we think that God has to act in sort of an extraordinary way. Right? He has to sort of appear to you and say, oh, I am God. I come to talk to you, right? But you've never seen him in your life. And for God to say that he is love, he must manifest this love concretely in your history. Now, the problem with our history is whether you're able to read your history with the eyes of faith or you're blind. Now, there are events in our lives that constantly tell us that God is not love. What? For example, let's say what I just said, that your father left when you were little. You never met him. Where is God? something happened to you when you were little. Where is God? That an accident happened and someone was taken away that you love so much. Where is God? That things are not going the way you want. That you are so caught up with certain sins and you say, where is God? I cry all the time. The priest told me, go to confession. I did, but nothing happens. So he told me, go to the Blessed Sacrament. I go there. Nothing happens. I'm stuck. So where is this God? Right? And you know, just like when a woman is pregnant, and this little child at the beginning is like a seed in the womb, you know, yeah, she doesn't even notice, right? She feels certain things like nausea and, you know, all these other things, but in reality she doesn't even see what is happening, right? But little by little this child develops inside of the womb of the mother until this child is ready to come out. And birth happens, right? So what does this mean? Faith is just as a gestation process. We were not born with an immanent knowledge or something that we already know everything. No. When you were born, did you know how your arms were coming out? Or how your head was developing? Did you know that? Did you notice? If I ask you, how was it when you were in the womb of your mother? You don't even recall, right? You know that they say now that a child is able to perceive sounds and things like that, right? So much so that they put music to the child in the womb of the mother and the child starts clapping and doing all kinds of things. This is true, right? Well, anyways, what I'm trying to say is that there is a connection, a historical connection between our faith, in other words, what we believe, and the intervention of God. If God had never manifested himself to us, we would not know a thing about God. Even if you think you're the smartest and you came up with the idea of God, even if you think that you invented this God, if God had not manifested himself, you would never know him. How do we know God? When he shows himself. How does he show himself? Continues the question. In my history, I was born the last child. My mother died when I was 8 months old. What happened is she had an enlarged heart. Practically the doctors had told her that she couldn't have any more children. Of course, you can imagine, you have already 9 children and now you're going to have the 10th. And not only, the doctors had said that the risk was that she was going to die and I was going to die. In fact, I was born with only 7 months. And they say that when I was born, they could fit me in a shoe box, right? So small I was that, you know. But anyways, 8 months after she passed away, I never knew my mother. The one that took the place of my mother was my oldest sister. Just by telling you that, you have to understand that there is a history that is written that I need to read. For a long time, I just buried the thought of my mother. I thought that it was normal. Because, you know, a little child, if you lose your mother when you're about maybe 6 or 7, you know her, you remember her, then you have the recall of her tenderness and love, and you cry for that, right? But growing up, since you were little and it was the same condition, doesn't touch you much. But it does touch your life. I think that my vocation comes from the fact that my mother gave me to God when she saw me almost dying. And God acts on that. I never wanted to become a priest. You know, I said this when I was being ordained bishop. You imagine the apostolic nuncio, what he thought about it. Because I said it open, you know. I never wanted to become a priest. And not because I wanted to say, you know, that I don't like being a priest or anything like that. No, just the opposite. That if I'm a priest, it's because God has done a history with me. I came to Canada, just like many of you, looking for something. I didn't know what I was looking for. But mainly I came looking for money, prestige, and being something. Right? But little did I know that the biggest problem that we carry is an internal problem. It's not an external problem. You can have all the money you want, you can have all the prestige you want, but if you are dead inside because you do not feel love, money will not take that. So it wasn't until I made a very stupid request to God. You know what was the request? You know what the request was? I asked, if you exist, show me. That was very stupid of me. So he took me seriously, and after a day or two, he answered. And for the first time in my life, I felt love. Not because I was the best, but as I was. Freedom. Has anybody ever loved you freely? Freely means as you are. Without asking that you change, without asking that you are a different person, without asking that you be, I don't know what, Superman or something like that. That transformed. Little by little, I started to know a God that was a father that really cared. That my mother didn't die in vain, that she gave birth to a son. That there was a mission for me. That my life had meaning. That that woman loved me so much. And you know, I want to say that my mother was very courageous, very strong and everything. But it wouldn't be just to say that. Because unless the hand of God, in other words, the help coming from God, helped my mother, she would never have gone through the pregnancy. Most likely she would have had an abortion. I don't know how many of you are already adults. If you had a situation like that where you have already 9 children, you see them all like this, and you think every night before going to sleep, should I do it? Should I not? Right? And then you give your life for the last one. Goodness. Who gives you the strength? Come on. Who gives you the strength? God was not there. She would not have done it. So what I'm saying with all this is that faith is a concrete reality. After thinking so many stupidities, because I always had so many issues also with my father, right? I thought he was very rigid, very strong, very strong. But little did I know that I was always looking for an image of a father that I had in my mind, not the real father. I never loved really my father. I loved the image that I had of my father. You know, it's almost like you have a little picture and you show it, like you put it right beside your father, you know, and every time you see your father, you compare, right? Like, is this the father that I have here, or is he not? And of course, he will never be the one that you have up here. He's something else. In other words, you never love him. You never love your mother. You never love anyone. And that, when I came to realize that, and I came to realize also that if it was me who lost that I had lost my wife at that particular moment, and having 9 children or 10 children to carry and everything, I would probably have done totally the opposite of what he did. He never ran away. He always corrected me. He always told me the truth. He was not a man that was bad, or bad intention. But you know, sometimes when you're corrected, you think that they do it in a negative sense, right? But now that I'm older, I realize that my father always loved me because he always told me the truth, right? So, this that I'm saying is because after having met with God and everything, I realized one thing. And you know what was that? That practically I needed to reconcile with my father. So I went, I asked for forgiveness. It was wonderful, it was beautiful. It was like something coming back to you. And at the same time, I tell you that one other thing that I always struggle with, because I always say this, because sometimes it seems stupid, but it's a reality, right? I was always like this, you know, I was thin as a stick, you know? So if you would see me face to face, you will see me, but if you see me sideways, right? And you know, growing up, you put the bathing suit, you want to go to the beach, you want to impress the girls, right? You want to say, oh, I'm here, sort of, right? But it was like Paul with a flag, right? But I'll say this, right? But the reality is that we have all kinds of things. And many times we say, why did you do this? Or if God is love, how come he made me like this? And that can also be somehow a point where we question the essence of God, we question the presence of God. or events that can happen. I was talking to one of you, and he says, you know, when I started asking myself about God, when I lost my friend. Right? Pedro is around here. He was telling me that, and it's true, right? It's true. There are certain events that happen, just like God uses events to communicate with us. And the fact that I'm speaking to you here is an event of God, which means that God wants to speak to you. Because He knows you. You are here, and you could be, you know, with a nice face and everything, but you could be going through difficult times. You could be thinking of something. You could be something could have happened to you. Well, God uses this stupid man that is in front of you. I'm a bishop, but God can use these words or these examples to tell you that you're not alone. You're not alone. You know, there is an event that happened during the Second World War, and it was so that there was a German soldier that seen the thousands and thousands of men walking towards the gas chambers. He felt deep inside a voice that you know, something that was telling him to do something, you know. And he asked himself as well, right? What should I do? What should I do? And he felt the answer inside. You know what the answer was? Undress yourself, go to the line, and walk towards the chamber with the people. This seems to be stupid and crazy, right? But that's exactly what Christ has done. He didn't deserve to die. He was not a sinner. He had done nothing. Yet, He took the place of the worst, because in those days there was not an electrical chair or a lethal injection. It was a crucifixion. But yet He was God. And everyone thought that He was the worst of the worst. But yet He undressed Himself and put Himself with the least of the least, with the outcast, with the sinners, to show what? That God loves you. There where someone had taken the reason of life, the reason of being, that is, that you have a Father in heaven that cares for you, that loves you. God plays that love back by telling you, I am with you. Even till death. Yes, even till death. So as to return you to this sonship with God. And this is what Christianity is all about. The experience of someone that loves you crazy, that is so crazy about you, loves you, that cares for you. You know, we live in a society where everything is changing at the moment. There are so many issues that are coming up, assisted suicide, euthanasia, and all kinds of things. And everyone's talking about it. I mean, because at a certain point, if God doesn't exist, and my life is only for this world, and here I die and that's it, that's the end of it. What's the meaning of suffering? Why should I suffer? You know, if the end of life is just me and my body, and I do and I say whatever I want, right? Right? So, what I'm saying to you is that Catholic missions in Canada has meaning because there is someone that cares for the people who are up north, but perhaps do not have the things that you have. You take for granted many things. The ones up north lack food sometimes, they lack the knowledge that you have. Many of them don't even go to school or drop off at the earliest stage. Like they go for 1, 5 years, 6 years, and then they go out. And they go out and they have no jobs, they have nothing. And sometimes, you know, the mother has married, remarried, married, remarried. So what happens? I tell you straight, many of them take their lives. You know why? Because having so many children and with the promiscuity that exists in there, sometimes the situation is so hard because they have gone through physical violence, and they have gone through psychological violence, and they have gone through so much. And because of alcohol and drugs and all kinds of things, and even cases, some cases of incest, they just can't bear it anymore, and they just kill themselves. This is one of the realities. You heard about the reality here in Ontario, right? There was a group of kids that wanted to commit suicide. Well, we have it up north. I have done already 4 funerals for people who have taken their lives. My first funeral was for someone who had killed himself. He was 37 years old, leaving 3 children. Then another person, the same thing. Another person, the same thing. So what I'm saying is that the North is a missionary area. We never think of this. We think that the missionary areas are in Ethiopia, are in, I don't know, you name it, Papua New Guinea, the Amazons, I don't know. Right? But you never think that here in Canada you have people who do not know about the love of God, who are waiting for someone to tell them that life exists, that they can feel love, that someone cares for them. And this is the essence of what Sister Matilda and Father Ray Lander are doing here along with all the team. Is trying to raise awareness about Catholic missions in Canada. That there are all these dioceses that are financially supported by the collections that are done every year around the Diocese of Toronto and many other dioceses around Canada. And what do they serve for? To build capacity, to build people that can help the people there in the North, build churches. They also sponsor seminarians, because I'm in a diocese. When I arrived there, I only had 5 priests. Father Raylander was the rector of the cathedral there. Then a situation arose that they needed the director here, and he escaped. So anyways, now he's working as the president here. Right? But I said to him when he came along and said, well, look, I have this situation, I don't know what to do. I said, well, no one can outdo God in mercy. If we give out one, surely He will give other priests. And that's what happened. After that, we received other 2 priests, and we are waiting for other 2 priests. So it was good that Father Raylander left. No. It was the work of God, because he was needed here, but God always provided. Okay? So, and what we are doing now, I think I only have 5 minutes. Where is Sarah? Okay, we have 5 minutes? 2 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay, so what we will be doing here, I hope that you can dialogue amongst yourselves. We have given out some questions, and so you can, ask questions and speak about what we just heard. It's all about spreading the good news. And there is a need, and there is also hope for the North. And building capacity. I don't know, because out of these talks that I just told you, just to tell you about Whitehorse, and then for this I finish. The Diocese of Whitehorse is as big as all of Italy, all of Germany, and all of Austria together. We have 721,000 square kilometers. So it's so vast that sometimes you have to drive 10 hours to go to one place. Of course, you don't go all the way 10 hours. You stop after 5, you sleep over, and then the next day you move on to the next. But the risk, that I have only 42,000 people in the diocese, out of which 8,000 are Catholics, right? And I only have at the moment 6 priests. And we're waiting for other 2 that are supposed to be coming. So the need for 23 parishes. Some parishes, they only have 1 mass once a month. Or sometimes maybe even once every a month and a half or 2 months. Which we use a lot and rely a lot on the lay. Thanks God that the Lord has brought to the diocese lay people who are committed. And what they do is every Sunday they spread the word with those who come to Mass, and then they give communion. Right? So it's a communion service. Celebration of the word and communion service. And in this diocese I have so many bears. There are thousands of bears. Grizzly bears. You know that the grizzlies, they come to be about, I don't know, Father Raylander, 3 meters, can it be?
Standing up?
Standing up?
Easy.
Yeah? And they weigh half a ton. So if they give you the embrace, they really mean it. You will really get a hug, right? And we have so many caribous, we have moose, we have all kinds of wildlife. And the place is beautiful, beautiful. You cannot imagine. Whitehorse is beautiful. You only see the sceneries that you see in Whitehorse, only in the postcards and all this stuff. And you know that Whitehorse is categorized as the place where you have the purest air in the whole globe. So that is just to get you to come, right? But it's a beautiful place. Eh? But there is a need, just as there is a need in the Northwest Territories and Nunavut. You know, in Nunavut, I have 40% of natives, but Nunavut have about 90% of native people. And they have to fly into the areas. They cannot do otherwise because there are no roads. Nothing. Right? So anyways, I leave you with this. God loves you. And thank you.